Hi folks, welcome to another set of 8th grade science video notes. Today we're going to be talking about physical versus chemical changes. Physical changes are really good for separating mixtures. They include things like state changes, for example a solid to a liquid or a liquid to a gas, changing something's shape or its size, or dissolving something in water. So how do you know a physical change occurred? Well, if a change happens to a substance and it's still the same substance after the change, that's what makes it a physical change. Now, chemical changes are a lot different. Instead of splitting up mixtures, they're really good at splitting up the bonds between atoms in a molecule. And it separates those molecules up into their separate elements. A chemical change could be any type of chemical reaction, such as burning, rusting, or cooking an egg. So how do you know it's a chemical change? Well, after the change occurs, you'll end up with a totally different substance than what you started with. Now, the only way to really test whether a chemical change occurred is to actually test the substance to figure out whether it's something different than what we started with. However, we do not have that technology here at our school. So, there are 5 indicators that give you a hint, pretty good chance that a chemical change occurred. One is if there's an odor, or there's smoke, or there's fire. So anytime the smell of something changes, for example, if you leave an apple sit out for too long, it eventually starts to rot and smell a little weird. That smell is an indicator that some chemical change is occurring. If you mix 2 chemicals together and it starts to bubble when you're not expecting it to bubble, or it starts to fizz, that is the production of a gas. There are gas bubbles escaping from the liquid that you have there, and that is an indicator of a chemical change. If you mix the substances together and it changes temperature, it gets real cold or gets real hot, that's also a pretty good indicator of a chemical change because that means that the chemical bonds between the atoms in a molecule got broken up and there was some energy that was released, or it took energy to make that happen. And then if you mix 2 liquids together and you get an unexpected color change, of course if you mix a red liquid with a blue liquid, you should get a purple liquid. But if you mix a red liquid with a blue liquid and you get a yellow liquid, that's pretty different than what you would expect, and that gives you an idea that maybe a chemical change happened. And finally, if there's a precipitate or a solid formed, that indicates that a new substance was formed. So you can mix 2 clear liquids together and end up with a green colored solid that sinks to the bottom of the beaker. That solid is the precipitate that was formed, and it's something new, so you would expect that was a chemical change. So here are some examples of physical changes. In this case, we're taking a piece of wood and we're cutting it in half. After we're done cutting it in half, we still have a piece of wood, so that is a physical change. In this example, you have an ice cube, and you can see that it's melting. Before the physical change, you had solid water, and afterwards you had liquid water. But the whole time it's still water, so it was a physical change. Here we're burning wood in a fireplace. This burning is a chemical reaction that's occurring. There's a smell that's given off, there's a color change to the wood, it's turning black, and there's a fire that's produced, and smoke, and that's how you know it was a chemical change. In this case, we mix 2 liquids together and you see a whole bunch of bubbling and fizzing. That's an indicator that a chemical change happened. And in this example, we took 2 clear liquids together, and it made a weird kind of yellowish color. And as we stirred, it turned really black. And then it went back to the yellow color and turned black again. And it just kept going back and forth. This is one of my favorite reactions, but it's definitely a chemical change because there was a color change. I hope that this short video helped you understand the difference between a physical and a chemical change. You're going to see some demonstrations about these coming soon, and you'll have to tell me whether they were physical or chemical changes. So make sure you understand it before that happens.